Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. I've got to admit, it's a bit fraught. Sam, I forgot to send you the link, didn't I? So Sam's just appeared on my screen about 5 seconds before the show started, and it wasn't his fault in the slightest. Sam, how are you, my friend?
We'll be all right. Shall we get the large elephant out of the room straight away from last week when we thought we'd something technically had badly gone wrong, and
what happened?
Deafened a few viewers, listeners, etc. Half of my roof came off. Basically, that's what that horrendous noise was. About half a dozen tiles. So that was it falling down the front of the house last week. And we didn't get the big bang down the bottom, which could have written off my car as well. Which,
my God.
So I got off lightly. But yeah, that wasn't something technical. It wasn't the microphone exploding. That was my house falling apart. But
I think
thankfully everyone's all right.
In the comments, Sam, as is always helpful on YouTube, I think someone has put the time
code.
Yeah. Someone's put the time code. I haven't gone out of pure, it's like Schadenfreude. I don't want to watch that back while your tiles falling off your roof. But...
Now that it's repaired and I'm a lot poorer for it, you know what I mean? We can all laugh. But it was tremendous, wasn't it?
Everybody's safe. Nobody was hurt. And we've got a full slate I'm so sorry, Sam. Of championship action to talk about and some more fixtures. I was at a game last week. Sam did 5 games in 5 days, not all championships. So we are very well versed, hopefully. We want to get into it. Of course, we want your comments as we go through. But let's have a quick look at what went down last week then. In the Mouthwatering Matchup, it was Leeds 1, West Brom 1 on Friday night. The game Sam did for TalkSport was Plymouth 1, Southampton 2. I think in our predictions, we had this one right as well. Blackburn 1, Hull 2 was not a shock to us. Neither was Bristol City 0, Birmingham 2. Leicester 2, Coventry 1. Sam, they just keep knocking it out, don't they? Middlesbrough 1, Huddersfield 1. I'm doing it again this week. I don't care if I irritate anybody. QPR 0, Leaders Ipswich 1. I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Preston 1. Less enjoyable for those Wednesday fans. Stoke 1, Watford 0. It was Sunderland 2, Rotherham 1, Swansea 1, Coventry 1. And on Sunday on the TV, with our friend Joby, it was Norwich 3, Millwall 1. Sam, we got to go with tradition and start with this. Right, it's time for Parkins Pick then. Which story, anything you like, do you want to talk about out of that lot?
Got to pull us both up on what we started last week's predictions on. We said Bristol City Birmingham was the most 1-1 scoreline of all time, right? And I said it on a different medium the other day, and the host Googled while I was on air and told me there's only been 1-1 in the last 31 or something like that. So the internet absolutely killed me there. But I think in their current guises, it stunk of a 1-1, didn't it, Ben? And Birmingham City ran out comfortable 2-0 winners. And therefore, Birmingham are my pick this week.
Yeah, it's really, really feel good, Birmingham, isn't it? Since pretty much the take. We were kind of waiting around for that takeover for the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. But literally, the second it went through, it's just gone 100 miles an hour feel good, hasn't it?
It's definitely been a ground that I've visited over the last few years. And I've felt that there's an enormous amount of apathy towards the owners, the club, the team, maybe as well. They seem to perennially finish kind of 17th, 18th. I think I'm pretty safe in saying that. No one pull me up. So I think the optimism this summer has been most welcome. Great that the ground's getting sorted ultimately. And I really like the team. I think defensively, they're looking incredibly sound. I'll give you a couple of stats that I've seen doing the rounds. Only Leeds faced fewer shots on average per game. 9 Birmingham, 7 Leeds. They faced the fewest open play shots.
In the whole division?
In the whole division.
Really?
And I would credit this chap. I read it in a blog or something. But they conceded, I think it was 6 on the goal at Swansea. And they've only conceded 1 on the goal in the other two fixtures.
Combined.
Against Leeds and Bristol City, if memory serves me right. It was Leeds, wasn't it, that they beat at St Andrews. So John Ruddy basically is getting paid a wage for doing nothing at the moment because the defence is superb. That said, they've obviously lost Ethan Laird the other day, who's had an amazing start to the season. And it's those fullbacks that I've been so enthused about. Buchanan on the left, Laird on the right. The shape for me at Birmingham has been so wrong so consistently, trying to play a 3. So I'm really pleased that they've changed this season. The fullbacks are going to be really important to it. The creative players that they brought in, Ben, I don't know, how do you see that playing out? Because I like Dembele, I like Keshi Anderson, I like Bakuna, but
you're going to tell me they're all players that flatter to deceive and
no, I'm going to tell you they're all players, all players that are unproven in the Championship. Or certain, I mean, Keshi Anderson, I watched a lot of at Swindon, obviously Dembele, a lot of Peterborough, but they're not players that have played, scored, assisted regularly in the Championship. So I think they'll create, in terms of the goals, Jukovic, Cosgrove and Hogan. I've been concerned about that. I was concerned about that a year ago. They have to, I think, because the quartet last year was probably Deeney as well, that 4. I don't think that's enough. So I think if they are going to win games, continue to win games, they're going to be on the narrow of margins. And obviously that leaves it a little bit in the hands of the gods. So defensively, really good. I think they need some help in the goal scoring stakes. And just a final one, John Eustace, brilliant guy. He lived in a house that I owned for a period. So, with Matt Sadler, who's now the Walsall manager, funnily enough. So I've got loads of time for him. Credible professional, incredibly driven, exactly the same as a manager. So they've got a really good guy in charge. I hope he gets backed, and I hope they can at least finish top half or get around the playoffs this year. But it's been a great start.
He seems to be getting everything right, Sam, because like you mentioned, Ruddy. So he takes a 35-year-old and gets a tune out of him as a free transfer. You've got young players. We mentioned Jordan James and someone tell me in the chat, George. What's his second name? The really George Hall, thank you, central midfielder. Then you've got these, Miyoshi coming in, these kind of exotic signings where they've gone into the European market. And even to be getting a tune out of Sunjic, and we've all, anyone who watches Bielik for kind of 30 minutes thinks that's a player, but he's been so unlucky. Seems to have managed to knit together every type of project that you get as a manager. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah,
I mean, Bielik's been incredible, hasn't he, when he's got a run of games? They paid big money for them, didn't they? If memory serves me right. So yeah,
did they end up paying it in the end?
yeah, he's a formidable force. I think when he's on song in the middle, they look like they've got a bit of a problem at right back because obviously Laird's got injured and Dembele got injured in the same game, and Bakuna went to right back. I think he did okay. I think Jordan James actually, on the right-hand side, helped him out quite a lot defensively, but you'd like Bakuna in an ideal world to be in a more creative position. So the injuries are stacking up, but it sounds like they're in the market for a few. Did I see in the chat there that possibly Stansfield from Fulham is being rumoured to being looked at by a lot of clubs? I mean,
Sam,
he's great when he...
all going to get blooming kicked down the road until September the 1st at 9 p.m, isn't it? We're waiting for... You said it last week, I think. You wait for the top layer to go, and as you suggested, Cameron Archer's going to end up at Sheffield United. Then the next layer goes, and you'd imagine Stansfield will be in that lower-end Premier League loanee. Not that's a bad thing for Championship. It's just going to take time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he was amazing, wasn't he? The initial part of last season, they had that brilliant kind of trio at the top end for Exeter, but it just plateaued a little bit this season. Obviously, it was a lot more about what he produced on the pitch because it was so emotive, him going back to his dad's former club. But I'd be fascinated to see how he does in the Championship. There's no doubt.
I think he's ready, isn't he?
I think he's a brilliant all-round forward. Whether he's going to get you, a large portion of goals in the Championship, I probably doubt. But he'd probably make up for that in the ones that he'd create. I think he likes to pull wide. He's a kind of effervescent type of character.
Effervescent? Within the first 10 minutes, you're dropping that in.
Type of player rather than character. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit... he's a creative force rather than an out-and-out goal scorer. So, yeah, he deserves his chance in the Championship. He's obviously at Fulham for a reason, and he's played in the Premier League. So he would be a good get, definitely, for Birmingham if they could get one over the line. But I don't see this being a year where they, absolutely fly up the table, because there's just not, in my mind, the goals maybe.
Who knows, though? And a great story, and I totally agree with you. Like, doing your 1 to 24s, you've got Birmingham in the bottom 6 every single year. Not the case this year. Thank you for all your comments in on that. Let's move on to this. Time for Worldie of the Week, Sam. A couple of very obvious contenders, and I think you've gone for the narrative here with this particular Worldie of the Week.
Can't believe you said that. Yeah, I'm going to go for Aaron. I'm going to go for Aaron Ramsey. Marginally, I would say. There was a few that made my shortlist, and the goal that you're going to mention is an absolute beaut, and it probably is. Well, it is a better build-up, isn't it? And there's a few more facets to it. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of a strike like this, but I think he's aiming where the ball ends up, clearly. It's driven. It's a good, what are we talking there? 27, 28, are we thinking?
Miles out, isn't it? When you look at that. God,
yeah, pushing 30 yards. Yeah, probably is 30 yards, isn't it? I thought it was a brilliant goal. And wasn't it the last goal came against Leicester, I think, was it?
I didn't know that, no.
For Cardiff, maybe in his first spell. So, yeah, brilliant goal. I'm really interested in the signing in the main. I've not seen Cardiff in their entirety in terms of a 90-minute game yet. But I'd like to see how he does, because I thought he looked miles away during the World Cup. Looked really short of a bit of zip more than anything.
Get your Worldie of the Week, by the way, if you're watching live on YouTube, in the comments while Sam's talking, and we'll click them all up.
Yeah, but definitely, yeah, on this week's evidence, he's still got something, hasn't he? That was an amazing goal. So that's my Worldie.
Not a lot wrong with the defending. Just to go into the game a little bit, it's another one of these Leicester games where they're just churning it out. There was a big chance, a 1v1 for them to take the lead with 10 to go in that as well, wasn't it? So it wasn't just Cardiff smashing one in from 30 yards and kind of fluking a goal, so to speak. They have been coin flips, these Leicester games, haven't they?
They have, yeah, and another couple of curveballs in terms of the goal scorers. Casadei has had a really good pre-season, actually, at Chelsea. He didn't look brilliant when he first came in. He was playing quite a withdrawn role at Chelsea's 23s, quite deep. It was only kind of latterly or every now and again where he played as a 10. So I'll be interested to see how he's positioned, first and foremost, I suppose, at Leicester. But he's got something. He's an unusual kind of physical specimen, if you like, for a number 10. He's quite, he's not a dribbler. He's 1 and 2 touch. He'll get in the box from deliveries as well. So it's a bit of a throwback. It's a bit kind of like Gus Poyet if he was to be deployed as a number 10. Do you know what I mean?
Just a finisher, get in the box. Yeah,
it's all 1 and 2 touch and getting in the box. So what we saw the other day, maybe that'll have its merits. When you're searching for a late goal, something like that, it's another body to make the box, and he's physically very strong. So yeah, I was pleased to see him get up and running anyway.
Excellent stuff. That is our Worldie of the Week. And as ever I say at this point, let's lower the tone. I think we preempted this a bit last week, Sam, didn't we? Who is your cause for concern? Get yours in via the comments. I think I know where Sam's going with this.
I thought you were going to announce it.
Am I going to announce it?
I thought you were lining yourself up to take a little bit.
We have one team, Sam Parkin, on 0 points in the championship so far. Sam mentioned them last week. You will see if you're watching live on YouTube. Cisco Munoz up on the screen there. So our cause for concern this week is Sheffield Wednesday. Again, get yours in the comments. Remember, Sam, cause for concern, it can be transient. Things can get better in coming weeks. We just talk about what's going on right now. And when you look at some of the kind of teams that we expected to be struggling, some that we'd pitched down at the bottom of the table, and Sheffield Wednesday obviously coming up from League One. you've spoken a few times about head starts and leaving yourself too much to do and all of this good stuff. And I think Sheffield Wednesday at the moment are that kind of textbook, had a bad summer in terms of chaos and, too much going on. And then that delaying everything for that sort of round one first set of games. And I don't think it's any surprise that they've come out of the blocks slowly, given that they've changed the manager and given that the type of player, because we're getting a lot of players who haven't played in the Championship before. And that's not me being very basic, Sam, and saying, oh, you have to have played in the Championship before. But it does take a bit of time to acclimatise, especially with multiple players coming in of that profile. There were questions about Cisco as well, where we kind of thought it had a touch of the Avram Grants, to use another Chelsea reference, where was the dressing room at Watford being managed, and did they just need someone who wasn't Vladimir Ivic to take them to promotion last time? That could be completely unfair, what I've just said, but we're looking for evidence of it this season. 3 games so far for Wednesday then, 3 defeats. We weren't too perturbed, Sam, by the first one against Southampton. They kind of grew into it, and Southampton are a newly relegated team. But you mentioned last week how they leaked the goals at Hull and let 4 go, having taken the lead as well. And then, when you're drawing a blank at home and losing 1-0. And this is not to say that this can't come back around and Cisco can't bring it back around there. But, and look, they win at the weekend. There's a load of teams on 1 point above them, and, they bump themselves straight up the table. But we've gone for the blinding obvious there, with them being the only team on 0 points. Let me put the question to you, Sam. How much is this a temporary cause for concern and something that you might see trend up, or something that's going to be a problem going into international break 1 and 2?
I think it's going to be a problem. I think that the start to the season has been relatively kind to them in terms of fixtures. So I think we're seeing a manager that's, in my opinion, tried to change too much too soon and try to introduce too many new players all at the same time. Listen, I spoke to you enough last season for you to know, Ben, that I wasn't a massive fan of Darren Moore.
You were flip-flopping right up until the last minute of the playoff final, weren't you?
I wasn't a massive fan of Darren Moore, and people would look at it and people would point to the points return and what they achieved in League One last season in terms of the promotion and say he couldn't have done much more. I would argue that that was the minimum that they should have achieved in League One last season. With that crowd, with that squad, they had to be on the tails of Ipswich, Plymouth, if not above them. And to get themselves into that situation in the first leg against Peterborough, I thought was tactically naive, and I thought the final was really poor as well. Listen, this is not me saying that Darren Moore deserved to be sacked. Absolutely not. Darren Moore should have led Sheffield Wednesday into this season because he deserved that after that second leg and after getting over the line at Wembley, where I thought Barnsley were the better side, by the way, with 11 and with 10. But still, given that he got them promoted, what was the remit? He should have been there. So, we know that the hierarchy or the upstairs shenanigans at Sheffield Wednesday isn't particularly on the greatest of footing or hasn't completely got the backing of everyone. But that was a very bizarre thing to do, change the manager. And equally bizarre is to change the shape straight away when you've had relative success. If he's a good tactician, maybe he should have just come in and just tinkered with 1 or 2 things within that shape, which was a 3, wasn't it? Invariably a 3-5-2 with a number 10, 2 centre forwards. I think too much is just changed too quickly. And it's going to take a while because, as you said, look at Burnley last year. That was probably with a pre-season, with amazing coaching, over a period of time that meant they could hit the ground running. Sheffield Wednesday are trying to do that now with games coming every 3 or 4 days.
You're fixing the plane while it's up in the air, right?
So you're probably looking at the window. I know, they should be enthused about some of these signings. The lad coming in from PSG, Masaba, is it Delgado as well? That's played the first few games. So, but there's some good experience sitting there on the bench, isn't there? Probably thinking, I could be affecting this. I've got good Championship experience. And for half an hour the other day, irrelevant of everything I've just said, they were actually okay. And I think the supporters seem relatively infused with the midfield buyers and Diaby, I think it was. So, yeah, I'm not saying they're going to lose 100% at the weekend because I think Cardiff's a pretty good game for them. But, yeah, I think it's a pretty desperate start when you look at the numbers as well. It's the worst XG4 and second worst XG against just QPR, keeping them from the foot of that particular table as well. So they're not creating much and they're conceding quite a number of chances on their goal as well.
Darren Moore's got every right, Sam, to come out and do the interview on Sky and talk to the Sheffield Star, hasn't he? But that doesn't help when they're not winning. I'm not, again, he can tell his part of the story. But the Wednesday fans, and again, we've seen the ticket prices for the Ipswich game released today. They just need some results because, well, there's all that crap, for want of a better word, buzzing around in the background. Just doesn't help the whole atmosphere, does it? Lots of people have brought it up in the chat as well.
Yeah. I watched maybe a minute or two, and there wasn't much clarity there, was there? To be honest, it's a difficult interview, I suppose, for Darren Moore to give. Would the Sheffield Wednesday fans want clarity? Probably. Yeah, probably, so they can just put it to bed and move on.
Exactly that, just to be done with it now, yeah?
Yeah, he's not coming back, is he? And he'd be foolish to do so because he'll get another good job because his last game was taking the team into the Championship. So, yeah, they need some results. And, yeah, thinking back to this new manager, Munoz at Watford, I felt the defence was pretty well organised, whether that was down to decent personnel. I think they kept quite a good number of clean sheets and were really good at home defensively, if memory serves me right. But he had some stellar forward players, didn't he, to get him out of the mire. And now, this is going to need good coaching, good tactical acumen. And I think if you go on what the Watford punters say, it's questionable whether he's got this.
Oh, on that note, we will move on and we will say that's it for last weekend, although you can bring up anything in the Q&A for me or Sam at the end. Let's move on to... we have this little lot. Tomorrow night is Hull versus Bristol City. That's not on TV, by the way. It's the Sam Parkin derby because it's Luton versus Chelsea on TV tomorrow night. There you go. Birmingham versus Plymouth is the first of the 3 p.m.s on Saturday. Cardiff versus Wednesday. Coventry versus Sunderland. Huddersfield Norwich. Ipswich versus Leaders Ipswich versus Leeds. Millwall versus Stoke. Preston versus Swansea. Rotherham versus Leicester. Southampton versus QPR. West Brom versus Borough, and I believe if I click over here, one more, Watford versus Blackburn Rovers. Sam, you're going to break one of the golden rules of the show here, but what is this week's mouth-watering matchup?
We're going to Portman Road, my friend. Ipswich against Leeds United. The only fixture in which I paid back a little bit of that chunky fee that Joe Royal and David Sheepshanks partied for my services in 2005. Unfortunately, that was at Ellen Road. This game
right.
The weekend is at the Road of Portman.
There we go. And the narrative is, well, changing by the hour given Daniel Farke's press conference earlier. So I think I was saying to you, and by the way, check out the Blue Monday podcast after we're done over here. They'll give a more fuller view on this game. We were saying, though, a couple of weeks ago from an Ipswich point of view, get them down here as quick as possible. And now we might be expecting to see Nonto and Sinistera maybe from the bench, maybe straight in away from the cauldron of Elland Road in an away game. That's no coincidence. But that, to me, Sam, that changes things because if Willie Nonto is there, immediately the circus is all eyes, all cameras, everything's going to be on him. And what if he enters the game at 70 minutes? The whole world is going to assume he's going to score.
Yeah, but he's 19. Remember, he's not been flushed with goals in the Premier League. I know he's a very talented boy, but there's no given that he's going to come on and affect it when he's playing against one of the informed teams in the country. I'm not talking about Ipswich being Premier League level quite yet, but you know what I mean. You go back to the second half of last season and what they've done in the first 3 weeks of this season. They are so confident. Some players that maybe you were a little bit unsure of coming into this season. Goalkeeper, Hladky. Numbers suggesting that he's right at the top of his game at the moment. Burgess, another one. I know that he was maybe someone that the Ipswich fans weren't sure would be able to cope with the step up. Been excellent as well. Chaplin's continued in the same vein. So, and it's the collective, isn't it, that we're also impressed about with Ipswich and the different types of victories that they've achieved so far this season, the different challenges. This is just another one. It'd be a brilliant atmosphere because the Leeds supporters will travel in numbers, make a hell of a lot of noise. But it does put a different slant on it if you can have Sinistero and Nonto out there, which did look their strength in the early part of the season, the early game of the season. And the West Brom performance was encouraging, wasn't it? So it looks like the stars finally are starting to align, aren't they, in Yorkshire? And if they could get Joel Pirro as well.
No, stop it.
That's and we don't know what's going to happen. That's the thing that none of us can determine right now. They might still lose some of these players, but for this weekend, if they can get their heads right, then Ipswich should have a hell of a game on their hands.
That's the thing. You mentioned all of those things. You haven't even mentioned Daniel Farker either. That you throw him in, possibly the arrival of Pirro, the star, the mutineers.
How many has he done a derby game before then at Norwich?
Do you know what? That he's done two actually. One, and James Maddison scored. The one the following year was the one where the Norwich fans were, you don't know what you're doing, Farker out, and bit of a turn. Buendia's debut, that was. Bit of a turning point that afternoon. I think Aarons and Lewis both started as well, and Godfrey came on, and all of a sudden, I think it clicked for him. But Sam, that game against QPR last week, I said to you, was a coin flip between a team that's used to winning and a team that's not used to winning. And look, no one's doubting Leeds have better quality than Ipswich in this one. They're 2 divisions apart last year. Look at the budgets, look at the squads, etc. We get that. I just feel we may still just be in that window where Ipswich can catch Leeds on just being a bit further into their sort of strategy for the season, because I think we all assume Leeds are going to get up and running soon, in which case they're going to be favourites to win most of their games. We're right on the cusp of Ipswich still being able to catch him, I think. What do you think?
Well, he's not a miracle man, is he, Daniel Farker? He's got people probably in his office every morning. Let's get it right. He's probably on his phone as soon as he's off the training pitch about who's going to be there the following day, who he's going to have available for the weekend. I spoke to a large portion of the Southampton backroom staff the other day, and they're dealing with exactly the same. You're putting the cones out or you're putting the markers up in the manager's office. You don't know who's probably going to be out there on the training pitch today.
Right,
so what chance have these people got? But what I will say is Daniel Farker, in the infancy of his role at Norwich, when he maybe didn't have the star names and didn't have Buendia and stuff like that, the football was really good. I enjoyed watching it. He likes those kind of diminutive forward players, interchanging, quite narrow, I seem to remember. Maddison would have been one of them. And in time, he got it right. So I trust that he's going to be a success at Leeds, and he'll be really pleased to have probably had the last 24 hours where some of his prize assets may be becoming available for the weekend, and he may be able to add 1 or 2. Because defensively, he's got a few bodies in, players he knows. And the midfield's looking okay, as we've touched on a few times. So I think you'd still make Ipswich favourites. You'd have to, because the cohesion, the coaching from last year, the understanding that the players have of this manager's methods, and the shape invariably doesn't change. Personnel will, because he's got a good squad and good options. So yeah, I would still make Ipswich favourites for this, but it's a lovely narrative if the few of the bigger hitters are available.
And I will be there, Sam. And you can all check out the vlog. We'll try and get that up sort of 6 o'clock, maybe around that sort of time on Saturday night. So
Can I dare you to sit in these at the Cobbold stand? Would it be still called over the far side? Can you get a seat right next to the Leeds fans and do your blogging from there just to see the?
I'm the other side. I'm all right with the Leeds fans.
Oh,
actually. They're always very friendly to me. Actually,
oh, really?
Yeah.
When it's coming live and direct, it might be different when Ipswich are 2-0 up or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we will see how it goes. Check out the vlog. That is Parkins' Mouthwatering Matchup. Let's move on to this one. This is an interesting one. Right, people say very nice things to me, Sam, that I'm some kind of championship guru. We're going to the player to watch. I didn't know who it was when you mentioned it to me. So maybe I'm less of a guru than you. Get your player to watch, by the way, in via the comments for this weekend. And this gives Sam a chance to talk a bit about Plymouth versus Southampton, which he covered for TalkSport at the weekend. And you saw your player to watch in this game.
Yeah, it was on a knife edge, wasn't it? At 1-1, it looked like it was just going to play out to a draw if it wasn't for Che Adams and the firepower that Southampton had in their ranks. But this lad came on, 17-year-old. I'm going to refer to my notes so I don't butcher it. Sam Amial, I'm going to go with. He's 17, and when he come on, I didn't say it, I didn't verbalize it on air, but as soon as he received the ball, my thought process was he's going to win them the game here.
Right, one of those.
Because I spoke to, again, like one of their staff members before, and he told me about him, and I'd done a bit of reading leading into the game, and the Southampton fans were all to a man saying he's going to be starting soon. I think maybe he comes in this week for so-and-so or for so-and-so. So I think he's really close. 17, he played the 90 minutes at Gillingham. And I just had a little look because I haven't seen that game, but he had 7 shots in that game, which was far and away the most. And he had the most touches by an absolute mile of any forward player. And I looked at his touch map and his heat map, and all his attempts come from just inside the area, right-hand side. So he's a left-footed player playing on the right, and he comes in and has shots. And he had 7 very similar ilk against Gillingham. But he won the corner, actually, in this game where the winning goal come from. And so often with a young lad and with a winger as well, it's going to be the flair and the directness, right? That draws you to him straight away. Well, it was his awareness and his balance that got me straight away. This is a player, like always looked like he had time on the ball, looking for a pass. So it wasn't that intensity and driving at people and tricking us that got me. It was like, that kid's 17, and I said as much to the goalkeeping coach after the game, and he went, he's serious
so
player.
Is his gig then going to be as well, Sam? It sounds quite nice. He waits for Nathan Teller to soften teams up and then comes in at the 65-minute mark. That sounds quite fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, I can't think of the lad who's been playing on the other side, the left winger. Who's been pretty lively as well.
I'm going to look it up. Eddie Ozzy, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was very good actually in the game as well, and Teller as well. So they've got good options there. There's still obviously a lot of interest in Teller, I think, and the likelihood is Armstrong, Adams, Teller could leave. So no, he looked brilliant. And I think he's England's 17s. So he's obviously a high pedigree young player. We know the academy at Southampton's been sensational. So he is my one to watch, because I would imagine he's right knocking on the door right now.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, in my pre-season video, I had Don Ballard, who's a real, one of these goal machines in the underages representative leagues for Southampton there. But I reckon you've got me on this one, because I think there's a little bit more scope for this fella to come in. Right. Keep your eyes on that. That's the player to watch. Let's go into the predictions then, Sam. If I can ask everybody in the comments, throw in your predictions. We're going to rattle through 12 fixtures quickly, so make sure you do put the teams and the scores in there as well. If they're just scores, I won't click them up because it all starts to get a little bit too confusing. Sam, do you want to kick us off with the Friday nighter with Nigel Pearson returning to Hull versus Bristol City? What say you?
I just think that it's just impossible to get a read on Bristol City. So therefore, just when Hull they're back to back, aren't they, Hull? I think victories, Sheffield Wednesday, and then Blackburn. Yeah. Just when you think they're getting it together, Bristol City are going to be a disaster. I think Bristol City could go there and get something. So I'm going to go similar to that. Was it a 4-4? End of last season, Hull played out on Sky Sports. The only goals pretty much in the tail end of the season they got under Rossini all came in one game.
Oh, at Sunderland?
Yeah, it was home though, wasn't it? It was at Hull, I think. But I'm going to go for something similar. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 on the box.
Lovely.
So what do you reckon, Ben? Birmingham against the Pilgrims?
Well, you just told me at the start of the show, Sam, that Birmingham don't concede any shots. So, although Plymouth don't need many shots to score, do they? So, look, two good sides here. Birmingham in form. Plymouth still got the momentum. I'm going to go on the base. I'm going to go geographically here that Plymouth skew slightly better at home. So, I might go for Birmingham 1 goal. Sam Cosgrove, big point to prove in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 to Birmingham. And I'm going to move you on to our cause for concern, Cardiff, Sheffield Wednesday. Sam, what do you reckon?
Well, I've seen your little video this afternoon, Benjamin.
That was bold, wasn't it? Yeah.
Straight off the bat, fancying the Wednesday away win. I think Cardiff have got decent firepower, and my kind of motto of the series so far has been it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Eek.
And sorry, Wednesdayites, if that's anything you've ever been called before. I think they're going to go down again. I think they might rally. I'm going to go 2-1 Cardiff, which takes us on to the other CC. Coventry City Sunderland seems like it's been quite a played out fixture in the last few years. Bit of needle, if memory serves me right, Ben. What do you reckon?
And two playoff losers from last season, right in the mix there. Tony Mowbray going back to his former club.
They had a 5-4, didn't they? Stadium of Light.
Did they? Oh, someone will tell us in the chat.
Sure they did.
I really like Coventry. I love what they've done with the signings to replace Gyökeres and Hamer. I know they had a draw last week, didn't they, at Swansea. I know Sunderland do skew better away from home, but I'm going to go both teams to score in a Coventry win. I'm going to go 3-1 to Coventry. And we've got another manager visiting his former club, David Wagner, visiting Huddersfield. Informed Norwich, I think we can call them, visiting Huddersfield. Sam, what do you reckon?
Yeah, that completely passed me by. I'd forgotten that. But they won there handsomely, did they not? I mean, these games all just skew into one, especially when we were doing the ITV show together. Do you know what I mean, Ben? You think,
yeah.
Haven't they just played these two? But I think that was the game when they looked really good up there. And they are looking sensational. They're looking free scoring. I think the additions they've made look really clever all of a sudden. Again, I think as they did against Leicester, Neil Warnock will get Huddersfield wide up for this. I think they'll compete. I think they'll score. Can't bet against Norwich at the moment. 2-1.
Is Johnny Rowe going 4 for 4 as well, Sam?
Was he my man to watch? No, he was.
Oh, you were on him on the first week of the show, weren't you?
He was my goal of the week. Yeah. Why not? I'd fancy him to do it again. So 2-1, I'm going. Sorry, this has worked out beautifully in your favour. Tractor Boys against Leeds Saturday 3:00. Do your worst.
Can I plead the fifth quickly and say a big thank you to Sean? €10 on the super chat there. Glad to be back. Transfer window driving me nuts, says Sean. Thank you so much. You can contribute via super chat at any point during the show. Big thanks to Sean. I'm just putting off this prediction, aren't I? I'm going to go right down the middle. And I do buy the narrative that one of those big names is going to score in this game for Leeds. Maybe a late equaliser, Sam. So I'm going to pull out the Desmond here. I'm going to go for Ipswich to be leading 2-1 going into the last 10. And someone called Willie or Luis to score the equaliser and make it 2-2.
Would you take that? Would you take that if I offered it to you now?
In context of the fact that it would be 2.5 points per game over the first 4 games, yes, I would. And we were all expecting to lose to Leeds anyway. So, yeah, I'll take 10 points from the first 4 games all day long, Sam. Millwall versus Stoke for you, Sam, one of your former clubs.
Yeah. I think this is a really big game. Obviously, there's narrative with Gary Rowett against his former club. Stoke have started well. Really good win against Watford, which we smelt, didn't we, last week? I thought that would probably go that way. I think Millwall, are going to do what they've done so often. I think they're going to race into a lead. I think they're going to be fired up for this. I think they're going to go a couple of goals up. Stoke are going to rally. It's going to be bums on the edge of the seats, but they're going to get over the line. I think this is going to be a colossal home victory by the odd goal.
Is that not an oxymoron? A colossal victory by the odd goal?
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you
mean. In the greater schemes of things. Right. Preston North End on the back of a win, wasn't it? A win, yeah.
Yeah, I think they got 7 points, yeah.
Against Swansea, struggling Swansea.
Are you trying to influence me by saying struggling? Because we both like Mike Duff. I know we've got a mutual admiration for him, Sam.
Well, if we got the time, I like Mike Duff, but I don't understand the appointment at Swansea necessarily.
Okay, we'll get to that.
We'll do that another week, eh? We can have another segment.
Interesting. If this was at Swansea, I'd have Swansea winning this. I don't think they're going to go to Preston and win. I might go for another clean sheet win for Preston then. Although, has anyone done a nil yet? No one's done one, but they're boring, aren't they? So I'm going to really quickly just procrastinate and say thank you to Jay Turner for €5 in the super chat. Can that be the first question in the Q&A? Brooke Norton Cuffy, Sam, can you take that in the Q&A when we get to the end?
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah.
Or Jay Turner, thank you. I'm going to go 1-0 to Preston. I'm going to go for them to go back-to-back 1-0s. Sam, let me move you on to the Victor Johansson derby, Rotherham versus Leicester. I can even tell you how this game's going to go, let alone the outcome.
I think it's very unlikely that both Ipswich and Leicester are going to have 12 points come 6 o'clock Saturday evening.
Me too.
so therefore, curveball. I fancy Ipswich to beat Leicester, to beat Leeds. Sorry, I'm all over the shop here. I'm saying Rotherham are going to take a point off Leicester.
That is tremendous. That's what I'm here for. That is a bold prediction.
Yeah. I'm fancying Rotherham to make it really difficult. You know, these are the games, aren't they? The cliche games that Leicester and Southampton won't like it up them. Well, we'll see at the weekend, won't we? So I think this will be, just a point, 10 points from the first 12 for Leicester. They're going to come a cropper at the New York Stadium or whatever it's called. What about the Saints against QPR, Ben? I remember being there watching Premier League relegation battles back in the day at the Dell. Slightly different vibe now, but what say you?
We just say a big thank you to Balboa guy in the chat there, 199 on the super chat. Very, very kind indeed. Sam, you'll be very pleased to hear QPR were way better than everyone expected last week against Ipswich. Sinclair Armstrong, brilliant. They looked up and at them, but come on, this is Southampton away. You know, Flynn Downs is going to be in now. They've moved Lavia on. They've moved Ward-Prowse on. I thought QPR were good, and I may, when I review my preseason predictions, bump them up a little bit, but I've got to go for Southampton, Sam. And it's been very goal happy, and you do some fun ones. So I'm going to be really horrible. Sorry, QPR fans. I think it is going to get good, but I'm going to go 4-2 to Southampton. And so we say both Adams and Armstrong to score in this one. And I'll move you on to Carlos Corberon and West Brom facing Michael Carrick and Borough. What do you reckon, Sam?
Well, if Bristol City Birmingham was the most 1-1 result ever, and someone pulled me up on it, this is the most Friday night Sky Sports Championship fixture of all time, with emptying Hawthorns when they go a goal behind. You know what I mean. Someone can look it up now and say they've never played on Sky, but you know what I mean. I'm going to go. They were disappointing and they were fortunate, weren't they? I would say West Brom at Leeds, but Middlesbrough, even though I saw a bit of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the two new signings, he looked sharp, didn't he? The front man whose name I butchered last week, Latte. So I will go for West Brom to win by a solitary goal.
Set play.
One of these forwards they're stockpiling, but don't seem to fancy any of them. One of these guys, Sarmiento or Thomas Asante or someone like that, maybe.
There you go. Last one to me then, Sam.
Sorry, I can't see it. Where are we looking? Watford against Blackburn, my friend.
I haven't got a clue. Blackburn have stitched me up ever since John Dale Thomason walked in the door. Watford are already a bit up and down, streaky weaky. Could go either way. I keep going both teams to score. So should we have a clean sheet in this one? It's going to be a draw, isn't it? 1-1, the most tedious prediction I can possibly give. Thank you, everybody, for putting your predictions into the chat. We're going to get to the Q&A in a minute, but first, let's hear about a meltdown moment. We've got to get to the quiz as well, Sam. But what's your meltdown moment this week? And it's not the tiles coming off your roof.
No. Well, it's we got a few things, haven't we, that we want to get into, but the main crux of it is what's going on at Millwall, basically.
And a few people have asked you to speak about it in the comments.
And I really got into it the other night. I was doing Palace Arsenal, but we had a little segment for a Millwall conversation prior to kickoff with a few of the London football reporters that work for BBC Radio London, and we really got into it, actually. And listen, I'm not one that would ever advocate a team, a club, getting rid of a manager after 4 games. Absolutely not. Have this conversation with me after 12. That's not to say that I don't think that Millwall froze last game of last season. And I watched them a lot as well. So I've got a decent understanding, I think, of what's going on there. But I didn't like hearing about the songs at Norwich the other day, especially, it's been a real tough period, I would imagine, for Gary Rowett and the staff and everyone at Millwall, given what happened in the summer. So I felt it was, a little bit unkind for a worse phrase, or I can't really find the words to surmise that. But I just thought it was tough on him, given the finishes they've had. I think Millwall have got a big problem because I've always felt that they come out of the trap so quickly, Ben, so fast in games, and that's their blueprint and that's their only style. I think they miss a midfield player that can dictate the play, that can slow things down, that can get his foot on the ball. I think that's been the case for a year or two. So they have to play in that fashion. They have to just come out of the traps and try and put teams to the sword. But invariably, even if they're winning games, they're hanging on for dear life. So I think they've done really well. I've always questioned whether they've produced enough young players for the area that they're in. They are now.
Romain Esse we like, don't we?
There are players. The player that came on at the weekend and scored. But if it's a case of a frustration at the style of play, then the people that appointed Gary Rowett way back when would have known that Gary Rowett's quite a pragmatic manager. And I think he's tried to change to a degree, but it's not really in his DNA to really change. And whether we're talking about being a lot more expansive, then there's a bit of give and take there, because I think some managers have tried that at Millwall and it's never really gone down particularly well. So it's a very specific style of football that the supporters demand, I would suggest. I think if they're going to improve this year, you might have to look at a change of shape. I think the wing-backs haven't really contributed like wing-backs should in terms of goals and creativity. And I think if they're not doing that, if they're not really offensive wing-backs, then you are going to drop back into a 5. And there's no pace in the outside centre-half. So that's probably what they do, because those full-backs give a little bit of security like that. But for Millwall to become a better side, you need better passers in the back 3 as well. You probably need a bit more pace, and you probably need those fullbacks to really start contributing going forward. And I think in Joe Bryan and in Norton Cuffey, who we'll talk about a little bit in a minute.
Well, actually, take that now.
Take
that
it
was
now.
From Jay Turner. Interested your thoughts on Brooke Norton Cuffey signing for Millwall. Good fit after Coventry loan last year.
I thought he was tidy, and I thought defensively pretty diligent. There was one game actually where he got really found out defensively. I can't recall it, but I worry looking at his numbers and why have Coventry not tried to go back in for him? Or why has someone not knocking on the door of promotion tried to get back in for him if that's the next progression in his career? So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. I think he's steady. I think he'll do them a good job. Whether he's going to elevate those wing backs, like I suggest needs to happen, I'd question. Joe Bryan, I thought, was a brilliant signing. So hopefully that will help on the left-hand side. But again, it's an interesting one because if there's going to be a change in style, then is Gary Rowett, one, the person that's going to implement that? Two, will the supporters accept it? The end of our conversation the other day, just quickly, the presenter said to me, I said, who are you going to go and get now then? What type of manager are you going to get in Mill? Are you going to get a young guy, Kieran McKenna-esque? Are you going to get an ex-player? Are you going to go someone tried and tested? And he came straight back at me with Chris Wilder and Nathan Jones. And I said, I wasn't anticipating those two names coming my way. And they're pretty good shouts, in terms of...
They're both brash enough to cope with the club, aren't they? Yeah.
A bit of sophistication in terms of the setups and all that, like try different shapes, the overlapping fullbacks with Chris Wilder, the diamond with Nathan Jones. Do you know what I mean? But the type of football would be invariably two forwards, probably a lot of attacking play. But would Chris Wilder, with his track record, go to Millwall right now? I don't think he would. Would Nathan Jones take that as his next job? I probably don't think he would, because he'd be back where he started, would he not? And that's not inflammatory. He'd be back at a Championship side, punching above their weight, lower budget than the rest, brilliant fans, credible atmosphere, very unique. But I think Nathan Jones would probably think his ceiling's slightly higher than that, even now, having had the go in the Premier League. So I don't know if Mill were to make a change, ultimately, where they'd go. Yeah, but it's a club that I love going to watch, and it's a club where I had a brilliant few months. But I know, as a player, if it's not going well, it's one of the hardest teams to play for. And as a manager, Neil Harris is the prime example here, Ben. Record goal scorer, absolute hero.
Icon, yeah.
Best striker I played, best finisher I played with by a distance. Went horribly sour for him in his last few days. So maybe it is time for Gary, but 4 days is not time, in my opinion.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. And having had a season ticket at Ipswich under Mick McCarthy, I do totally empathise with the fans of a team.
Just quickly, Ben, because I know you get down there quite a lot. Is the style of football the biggest criticism here?
Yes. That's the bone of contention.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's that whole Millwall DNA of front foot, come on, fight for the badge. Don't expect stepovers and pirouettes every second, but fight for the badge. And whatever you do, say under Harris, 4-4-2, they played forward, they played fast. They either won or lost based on a fight, didn't they? And I think it's a little bit of that.
But final one. But Neil would have been coming under criticism because there was no flexibility within that setup.
Probably, yeah. Probably, yeah.
So it leaves you wondering what the answer is.
Yeah, it's difficult, and you're totally right. And I don't want to get into the "be careful what you wish for" thing, because we had that as Ipswich fans. They are punching above their weight. And two things can be true, Sam. The manager can be overly pragmatic, and the club can still be punching above their weight. Right?
I probably do 10 games or something. Half a dozen, 10 games a season at Millwall, and some of those points I made. That's me watching it and thinking how they would be able to improve and how they could maybe get into that next bracket in the division. And it's a lot of it is down to recruitment, isn't it? So it's what type of style they're wanting to play, what type of football, and then the profiles that they need to bring in to be able to do that.
Amen. Right, let's get into the quiz, and then we will do the Q&A. This is the week that was. Get involved in the comments. Sam's not going to cheat and read your answers, but if someone does get it right in the comments, we've got a question for each of us from the brilliant Fev's Football Analytics. Go and give him a follow on Twitter. Bristol City fan, but brilliant. Sam, I've seen the spreadsheets. He sent me a couple. Everything, any data you want, he'll come up with some stats. Good follow. And he is the curator of our quiz. Do you want to answer first or do you want to ask first this week, Sam?
I'll answer because I might need 30 seconds to read my question again for you because I think this happened last week when the roof fell off my house. So I'm still a little bit wounded. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sorry.
No, I just mean I read your question absolutely terribly last week. So I'm going to try and articulate it better today. Go on, mate. You ask me mine.
Let's get into this. Get your answers in the comments. Someone's going to get it right. With Sam being the epitome of the big old-fashioned number 9, how many players wearing the number 9 shirt scored last week in the Championship, Friday through Sunday? How many players wearing the number 9 shirt scored last week in the Championship? Sam? And in the comments, get your guesses in. Try and put him off. We're 1-1 here, aren't we?
How long can I have? Because I can only think of one game from last week, even though we've just spoken about a load of him. Big Dukey must be.
I think he's 10, isn't he?
Is he? No idea. I'll have a stab in the dark at 3.
Ooh, it's not bad, Sam. Ryan Hardy scored for Plymouth.
Was that one? I should have got that. Yeah.
That's atrocious. Sam Gallagher scored for Blackburn.
Yeah.
Jerry Yates for Swansea. Yeah. And one more. So you're one away. Josh Sargent for Norwich. It was 4. Let's have a look. We're going to give some shout outs here to Jake. Jake was actually the first answer as well. And he got it bob on there. Wally, well done. Saint, well done. And everybody else, James is 1 away there and MAR is 1 away. Good effort, Sam. You were 1 out. So if I don't get kind of reasonably close with mine, we'll give you the win this week. Yeah.
Thank you, mate. According to Fevs, you're very much a creative type, and we associate
like Pablo Aimar, mate.
Yeah, creative people and creative players with the number 10 shirt. I've given you one. Tremendous. How many players wearing the 10 dog scored goals last weekend, Friday through to Sunday? How many?
Well, it's got to be less than the 9s, hasn't it? Although you've said Jutkovic is.
You got 1.
I wonder if it's exactly the same. I'm trying to read Sam's reactions here. It's just basically cheating.
Just think close to home before you go in. I'll give you a
Connor Chaplin. Is Che Adams 10? You're not answering that, are you?
Well, you got 3. You got your 3 there. You got your hat.
In which case, I'm going to go for 5 then.
Correct, my man.
Yes. Who are the other 2?
2 that you missed were Aaron Ramsey, the aforementioned Aaron Ramsey at Cardiff, and good old. I couldn't get his first name for a second there. Ashley Barnes, isn't it? Ashley Barnes
at
Norwich. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Fevs. Sorry, let me just give these people a shout out. Simon, Led Zepp, Callum. Did Wally get both right? I think in the chat there. Show off. I think MAR did as well. We'll go into the questions and we'll get your immediate reaction. Guys, get your questions in. Stick a question mark at the end so I can differentiate them from comments. I'll double check this on Twitter while you're talking. Jay Stansfield has apparently arrived at Birmingham during the show. Sam, your instant reaction?
Yeah, I think he's a really good signing. I was pretty impressed with him start of last season. I think, not sure he's a number 9, not sure he'll play down the middle, but in the setup that Birmingham have got right now, that makes it really exciting, doesn't it? I think he could play left, actually. Left of kind of a 4-2-3-1, something like that, coming in field, hitting shots, creating. Remember that, was it the Devon Derby? I think he scored one and made one. It was when Giovanni Brown was absolutely flying as well. So, yeah, he's a good all-round player. And like I said, like Eustace is a top man. And he's someone that I'm sure would be very good at the nurturing and helping at the next stage of his career, which is the natural one, isn't it? Going into the Championship, because it looks like Fulham like him and he can maybe go all the way.
And Fulham had just sold Mitro for 58 million to the Saudis, haven't they? NFC, has Norwich's start surprised you? Been at every game, including the Southampton roller coaster. We've been far brighter than even our fans expected. I suspect we're right on the same page with this, Sam. I think we said last week, biggest surprise of any how good Norwich have been, really.
Yeah, I think there's a number of ingredients, isn't there? I mean, the squad as a whole, there's experience there. The signings they made were unusually, I don't know, they dull? Not dull, but calculated in like a championship kind of fashion. Do you know what I mean?
They already had Sarah and Nunez, and they obviously knew what Rowe could do, didn't they? So you're right. They just needed the glue, didn't they?
Yeah, and players that had, been there in the last year or two and not maybe had incredible consistency. Josh Sargent, someone who showed flashes, didn't he? Like now felt like his time, which is materialising. And then you've got Jonathan Rowe, who we said last year is like a new signing because he's had such bad injury problems and the quality that he's exuding in the opening weeks of the season. So there's a collection of ingredients going on. And the biggest thing was David Wagner probably having a look last year and been able to reassess and coming back with a slightly different plan of attack this year with some new bodies. And it's the time on the coaching ground, glued together with the new signings. It's looking really exciting. Absolutely, they've been underrated and undervalued and underestimated going into this campaign because the people would have had them maybe on the outside of the playoffs no better. So
I think I had them even low. I think I had like 8th or 9th or something. And you're looking at a playoff challenge now. Let's rattle through these, Sam. George, can / will Coventry make the next step? Well, can is a definite yes. Will all depends on how much that playoff race opens up, which depends on the parachute teams, doesn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I would imagine so. And, a team like Norwich, a team like West Bromwich Albion, what they do before the end of the window will probably determine, how likely it is Coventry mirroring what they did last year. I think it will be tough. I think it will be tough without, the two players. I know Coventry fans would say they've strengthened really well, added really well, spent some of the portion of the money. And I would agree with that. But I just think we're talking about, maybe the best player in the championship in terms of ability in Gus Harmer and probably in the top 3 strikers, maybe the best striker.
Best all-rounder, probably.
Maybe the best all-round striker last year. So, I mean, I know Matty Godin's in a hell of a scoring spree at the moment, but I'd be surprised if he can maintain that. And I'd be surprised if Haji Wright is as good as quickly as Gyökeres was last season. So, I think if they were to get playoffs again, Mark Robbins is the manager of the season this time around.
I've got them getting in there, so we'll see. Comment there early in the season. If Ipswich beat Leeds on Saturday, it'll be 10 points clear of them. There you go. Fevs in the chat as well. Thank you for your questions, mate. Led Zepp, is Pirro going to be a Leeds player by tea time tomorrow? Tea time I will take because he won't be registered in time for the game on Saturday. Midday, the deadline I'd be more concerned about. A flip of a coin. I think he might be, mightn't he, Sam?
Feels like he wants to move, doesn't it? And there's been quite a lot of noise, I think.
Incredible sources have gone with that.
Yeah, I think there's maybe some noise coming out of his camp as well. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think... I think Swansea are probably best off just doing business and doing it quickly so they can reassess their squad. I'd be absolutely amazed if Southampton aren't in for him. There's been contrasting reports, hasn't there, today that they're not in the running and that Leeds have got free rein, but that would be astonishing, given how often and how well he played for Russell Martin last year. And I think
given they've just had 60 million quid drop in their bank account from Lavia, He
fits in that team brilliantly, as he's had the experience of playing in Russell Martin's team. So, we'll see. What was the question again?
Is Pirro going to be a Leeds player by tea time?
I don't know. I think that Southampton could come in there as well. So I think it could go on, couldn't it? It could go on for a few days.
I hope you're right. For very selfish reasons. You got time to do a few more, Sam?
Yes, mate.
Worldie, which game this weekend will get the highest attendance? Probably be Southampton with Ipswich not far behind if Sunderland Sheffield Wednesday aren't at home. Leeds
QPR
aren't
taking
at home.
3,000.
Oh, it'd probably be Southampton.
Been doing the rounds.
Yeah, won it. Yeah. Callum. Oh, you're gonna have to take this, Sam. I don't know. Yasin Ayari joined Cov on loan from Brighton. We take a lot to replace Gus, but can this guy reach his levels? And what do you know about him, Sam? I'm gonna need to plead the fifth on that one. I just know he's another Brighton.
Callum, I'll answer that question next week when I've had 7 minutes of YouTube highlights, my friend.
Okay, Callum, tweet. Give Sam a tweet, and we'll hold him to answering that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do some digging. Definitely.
What team in the Championship that was not in the Premier League last year do you think is most resistant to Elland Road home advantage? I don't particularly understand that question. I don't know what he means there. Sam,
which team in the Championship was not in the Prem last year? Do you think is the most resistant? Which team away from home will be able to produce an away performance at the hostile Elland Road?
Someone who can defend, probably. Someone who's good about the ball. Coventry?
Yeah. Coventry would
go with that.
spring. Yeah, Coventry would spring out to me, just counter-attack, weren't they, towards the end of the season a little bit? And I've said it a few times, I think Hadji Wright's profile, it kind of mirrors that of Gyökeres.
You love Hadji Wright, don't you, Sam?
I liked his movement. Oh,
yeah.
That was a weird noise. I really liked his movement. Terrific.
Jay Vlogs, Darren Moore to Millwall. Is that not going to be a bit too similar in terms of I went to Derby Oxford the other night, and he was down there, former Derby player. Don't know if there's anything to that. That doesn't feel enough of the remedy, does it?
I don't know. I couldn't see that now. No, I think it's too much. It's probably quite a big job, isn't it, for the next person who goes in at Millwall? I genuinely hope that Gary Rowett gets a little bit of time, because I've done work with him, and he's very, very honest, very likable, very kind guy. In my experience, I know that doesn't mean you're going to win football matches and turn a fan base around if they've turned, but beating Stoke on Saturday will go some way to doing that. And I just think, the confidence must be within that group over the last few years. As a whole, they've achieved pretty good things in terms of the league finishes. So I don't see a squad that's probably down massively on confidence. They just need to need to know where they're going, and they need to know whether, I suppose Gary's the man to lead them, and whether he can make these tweaks. Make these tweaks to make them more offensive and make them more attack-minded. I think a change of shape. I think a change of shape could be in the offing there, and and they did it last year towards the tail end. He did tweak it once or twice, and that could revitalise their season.
MAR, does Middlesbrough's poor start change your expectations? That's got to be a big yes from me, because I had them finishing second, and
yeah, definitely.
I've already backtracked from that. Let's move through quickly and try and answer as many of these before we finish. James, are you both fans of the new harsher refereeing? What you'll understand about me and Sam is we always disagree on this. Sam goes from the player's view, and I'm there with my IFAB law book. So I'm more of a fan of it than you are, Sam. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, although like when I was playing, I never ever went home complaining about a referee. Absolutely not. And I don't think I ever dived around or anything like that. So it's all a bit strange for me. And the last few years, I think that the amount of wasting time and stuff like that has crept into the game, and it has actually benefited sides, across whole seasons, probably the way they've managed games. So I think something had to give. I think the amount of time has decreased already. I was at a few games, or covered a few games across the weekend, where it was 1 minute, 2 minutes going up. So, and then we saw that Crystal Palace, Arsenal referee and official performance, which was just woeful. If it's the consistency we're after, and if they've been briefed, then standing on a free kick, yellow card, wasting time from a throw, yellow card, be aggressive with it. Otherwise, they're never going to snap it out.
Amen. Early shout for Golden Boot, Sam. I think I'm Adam Armstrong on the assumption that Adams is going to leave.
Yeah. I think one of those two would have been there for me. Who else is flying? What about a Josh Sargent shout?
It's a lovely shout. Yeah.
It's very rogue, isn't it?
It's
It's
beautifully
very
rogue.
rogue.
You'll probably get at least 16-1 on that, won't you? Someone will check me out. I like it. Like, you come up with a few left field ones. How much time do you think Cisco will get at Sheffield Wednesday? Well, the minimum we'll get will be leading into the transfer window in January, Christmas time, I think. I don't think Chansiri will go any sooner, but it's Mr. Chansiri, Sam. There's no guarantee you won't sack him before November or something crazy like that.
I think he'll maybe go in January. What about just before the end of the window in January? Do you know what I mean?
the most ridiculous possible time.
Just before, week before the end of the window. I'm being deadly serious here because I think it's going to be a struggle. But obviously, I can't predict what the owner's going to do with a manager. But I'll go a week before the end of the window where someone's got to come in and just, work absolute miracles.
Right, we're going to do one more, and I'm going to let Sam go. Will Southampton break both the passing and possession record v QPR? You need to give me a number then. Sam is about to tell you what percentage possession Russell Martin's Southampton, and Gareth Ainsworth won't care about this in the slightest. He'll love that number to be 14% or something, won't he? But what's the percent going to be for Southampton?
That's a great question. I love it. At home park last week, though, it didn't feel like as bad as we've been led to believe it is. Not that it's bad, but do you know what I mean? Not that just the total domination. It wasn't that evident to me, maybe because, Plymouth, Argyle at home, fans, vociferous, and they attack, with real vigour and pace. I don't know. It didn't feel like that lethargic in possession. Oh, I'll go high 70s just because QPR are starting to get their act together a little bit. I
could have sworn you were going to go above 80 then.
No, I'm going to go 70. I'll go 76, the year that QPR finished second to Liverpool in the old First Division.
Unbelievable scenes. And the great Jerry Francis was at the game I was at.
Jerry would have been in that team, Ben.
On Saturday. He would have been a star player in that team, wouldn't he? Him and Stan Bowles, I guess. Sam, thank you so much for another brilliant Championship check-in podcast. Before you go, guys, please do hit the thumbs up button on the video here. We'll upload this to the podcast feed. So I know if you're watching now, you're going to be enjoying the YouTube and getting involved with all of that. So thank you for all the comments, all the likes. Thank you for the super chats as well. Really, really kind that. Sam, are you at any games this weekend?
Oh, I'm cheating on the old champ this weekend, my friend. I'm working on, Chelsea tomorrow night, and I'm at Brentford Palace at the weekend. Saturday.
Lovely stuff. Yeah. I will be at Ipswich versus Leeds. So check
there you
out
go. You'll be all over it, mate. Next Thursday night.
Oh yes, we'll see how it's all gone. But check out the vlog for that. We did the bold predictions today. I will be in competition with Sam on the watch along tomorrow night, doing Luton versus Chelsea as well. So have us kind of both on at some point there, and make sure you head over to the Blue Monday podcast that's on right now. That I promised I wouldn't go 12 minutes into and go up against them as well. Thank you everybody for joining. We'll see you next Thursday night on the Championship Check-In podcast. Goodbye, Sam.
Goodbye, mate. Well done, Ruth.